Well, good morning, everyone. And how are ya? Welcome to another live and another podcast. And we sure appreciate our audience. And I know I say that all the time, but I mean it. And let us say hello to a few folks before we get started here. And our dear friends and followers, Nativity, number one this morning. Christine, good morning. Jen from Cape Breton. And Rosa. And Fran, good morning. Lori, Niagara Falls. And Sandra, Denise, John from Elgin, Illinois. Rhonda. Help me, Rhonda. Janice, Brampton, Doris, good morning. And Andrea from Niagara Falls. Marilyn, Edmonton, Alberta. Linda, St. Jude, Quebec. Kim, good morning to you. And Donna, PEI. Suzanne, good morning. Margaret, thank you for coming on. There's my friend, Dr. McEwen. How are you? And Francis Marie, Rhea, and another Sandra from Brampton, Teresa, Calgary, Alberta, Wendy, London, and Christine, good morning, Stephanie, and Darlene, Jean, good morning. Couple more guys and we'll get going. We sure appreciate you guys coming on. Linda, we love those Lindas because they listen. Teresa, Georgie from Halifax, Nova Scotia, Catherine, and Catherine and Judy, I think. Renee, Newfoundland. Yvette, bonjour. Cheryl from West Virginia. Guess what, Cheryl? When I see that, I want to sing. Jean, Maria, and Dr. McEwen saying they're on their break now. Helen and Nan, Etta, Annette, how are you? Okay, guys, I didn't get to all the questions, so I'm going to answer. I'll come back and answer some of these questions because they were asked to me, but let me bring to you, there's a couple of studies on, let me just get to it here. Alzheimer's and gut health. Okay, the connection. We've talked about that. Leaky gut, leaky brain. But what they're saying, okay, on this, and I think I have, yes, there's 2 studies on sugar. Okay? And of course, it's not good, right? So sugar intake, okay, what it does even in Alzheimer's. So with Alzheimer's, guys, you get a double whammo, okay? And this is what this study is saying, okay? Looking at Alzheimer's, and they agree there's a gut-brain connection. So when you consume sugar, it disrupts your microbiome, okay? And by disrupting your microbiome, okay, the vast majority of your microbiome is found in your gut, okay? We all know that. When you get on a scale, you can eliminate up to 5 pounds. Just, hey, you got bacteria in there, and whether it's good, bad, or ugly, it don't matter. It's going to weigh between 3 and 5 pounds. So you have my permission when you get on a scale to eliminate, okay, I'll give you 5 pounds. Take 5 pounds off. That's bacteria. Okay? But the state of your bacteria, medicine is finally looking at the microbiome. It's probably, I said this the other night, it's probably the number one in terms of research, in terms of what is new, and medicine is finally catching up to Hippocrates 2,000 years ago, who said all diseases start in the gut. Now, Hippocrates was a very smart man, obviously, but I don't think he understood bacteria like we do today because of our of the powerful microscopes, electron microscopes. We can actually look at these bacteria. And so what this study is saying, there's a major connection between the gut and the brain in Alzheimer's. And when you get a condition where your microbiome is disrupted, okay? So one step back just for the sake of repetition. You have two armies in your gut. You have two armies on your skin. You have two armies in your sinuses. You have two armies in the blood-brain barrier. You have two armies, okay? You have good bacteria and you have bad bacteria. And actually, they just sit there looking at each other, okay? Now, they do a lot of things, okay? So they're not just inactive, but it's called biosis, okay? And that is harmony between the good and the bad. And the key to that, of course, is having enough good bacteria, okay? That's the key. And what this study is saying, there's a major connection between the gut and the brain involved in Alzheimer's. But it's interesting that they say one of the things that really disrupts the microbiome, of course, we've been saying this for a lot of years, is food. Okay? It's food. And what they're saying in the study is very specific. It's sugar, my friend. Sugar. Okay? So we all know, and your body knows, that sugar left unattended in your bloodstream is very dangerous. So your body is dedicated to getting sugar out of your bloodstream. Okay? Why? Because of what it does to your blood vessels. But when you consume sugar, people don't realize this, that nobody's taught them this, you're feeding the bad army. So what happens when you're eating sugar, you're feeding your bad bacteria plus, and they're sort of saying it in the study, but without spelling it out. What's happening is you're actually feeding fungal. Remember what I always teach you, the invasive army. It's the Trojan horse. It comes in to your bloodstream. Why? The disruption of the microbiome. And there's several reasons why you could have a dysbio, okay? So biosis is when everything is just hunky-dory in your gut, microscopically. Good and bad bacteria, read the story of David and Goliath, the Philistine army and the Israeli army were just sitting there looking at each other. Okay? It's a fascinating story. Now, that's how your body operates. That's what happens inside your small intestine and large intestine. It's a story of bacteria. And what the study is saying in Alzheimer's, people who consume sugar are disrupting that harmony. And so they're getting what we call a dysbiosis. And you get an invasive species It can travel to the brain. It'll get across the blood-brain barrier. It's yeast. It's fungus. It's candida. Albicans. Very, very disruptive to the harmony in the gut, traveling to the brain, Alzheimer's. Now, there's another factor. Okay? When you are a carboholic or you eat a lot of sugar, okay, which is the vast majority of the population, you know, we're up to almost 200 pounds a year. Unbelievable, you know, that we would ever, I could ever say such a thing. If you'd have told me that in the 1970s that people were consuming 200 pounds of sugar, I would have said, I don't believe it. How could we? But we're there. We're there. And you know, what they're saying in this study is, okay, number one, sugar disrupts the microbiome. Of course, like I said, I've been saying that for 40-something years. Sugar is a lot more destructive than people think it is. But then secondly, you're getting a double whammo. Think about this, okay? Not only are you disrupting the microbiome and feeding the invasive third army, yeast, fungus, that travels in the bloodstream and deposits itself all over the place. If you ever see someone with eczema or psoriasis or dermatitis or whatever, I would tell people, look on the skin and then go back to the gut. You have leaky gut. You got a chronic sinus problem. You got leaky gut. You have fungus that loves moisture. Remember, fungus is the cousin to mold. They love moisture. Okay? And, you know, if you don't believe me, think about, you know, athlete's foot, or think of fungus in the toe. Right? It's moisture. It's a perfect environment for fungus to grow. Okay, so there's one. Number one, the disruption of the microbiome with sugar. Secondly, think about this. Okay, it's something we talked about for a long time. In 2005, they discovered that Alzheimer's should be renamed to type 3 diabetes. Okay? It's really sugar diabetes of the brain. What? Yeah. Yeah. So, sugar disrupts your microbiome, but when we are carboholics, we develop a condition called insulin resistance. And that really affects the brain, because at the blood-brain barrier, okay, the blood-brain barrier, when you have insulin resistance, okay, you're eating sugar. Okay, let's just say you're eating sugar. And you know what insulin does? Insulin is the traffic cop, right? Can't park in the brain, sugar. Can't stay there. Come here. You're in a no parking zone, right? The traffic cop. You know, I don't know if you like that illustration, but I like it. I'm a very visual person. I gotta have, you know, when you talk about insulin, I think of a traffic cop. It will not allow sugar to stay in the brain, except, okay, when you develop insulin resistance. So what is that? Well, your cells are going, you know what, sugar? You know what, insulin? You're driving me crazy. You're coming around all the time. I don't like you. You're a bad neighbor. You're always knocking on my door so that I will open the door and allow sugar to come inside the cells. Right? I'm tired of you. Get lost. Problem is, in the brain, when you have insulin resistance developing, now insulin has a hard time doing its job. It has a hard time as the traffic cop to say inside the brain, you know what, sugar? You can't park in the brain. Come here. Out, 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 out. Can't do it. And so, you now have sugar saturating especially the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain. It does it to the hypothalamus too. And this is why, guys, this is why I always start with the reset. Why do I want the reset? Even for your brain. Even, ladies, for your hormones, your hormones. Because when sugar saturates the hypothalamus and the hippocampus, it messes up your hormones. And especially the thyroid messes it up. And you know, millions and millions and millions of people, especially women, are messed up hormonally. And no one ever talks to them about food. Food. And changing the diet. You got to remember now. Remember my modus operandi. Okay? What made me tick at the Martin Clinic? What made me tick? Well, I was a big guy on measuring insulin resistance. I found it in a multitude of conditions. You didn't have to be a diabetic, you know, per se. Oh, Dr. Martin, I'm not a diabetic. Well, no, not, you know, not by mainstream medicine's definition, but you really are, because your brain is a diabetic. And remember about blood sugar, by the way. Always remember this. Put this, guys, in the bank of your memory. Blood sugar is the last thing to change. It's a lag, as Tony Jr. likes to call it, a lagging indicator. Okay? It's the last thing that changes because your body, remember, is dedicated to keeping your blood sugars within a very tight range. You don't want to go high and you don't want to go low. So your body's dedicated to that. And it's almost like medicine has forgotten day one of physiology. They forget that. But there's a whole condition called insulin resistance. You have to understand, in my practice, you know, I always started with food. Always. I said, well, I'm going to send you home. Here's what you have, but you're going to start with a plan. I'm going to give you a plan to succeed. You need to do it because of how your body operates. We live in a different world, guys, okay? It's just different. Okay? I've seen it in my lifetime. I've seen it in my lifetime. And so what I'm telling you is that, even in my practice in the 70s compared to the years 2000, it was different. People were consuming, 100-fold more sugar than when I was a kid. Okay? I like cooking and ice cream too as a kid. But they add sugar to everything. And they changed the sugar, which made it worse than ever. Because they went from, a glucose to a fructose. Oh, Dr. Martin, must be healthy fructose. Nah. It's a synthetic monster. High fructose corn syrup. And guys, the day they invented it, I was screaming blue murder. It's not good for you. It's terrible. It disrupts the microbiome. And then when it crosses the blood-brain barrier and insulin can't even remove it, the traffic cop's not working. They say, okay, and this study is saying Alzheimer's and gut health, they're saying it's conclusive. Yep. But it's a double whammo. You consume that high fructose corn syrup or sugars, and especially, guys, and I've said this to you, my audience knows this, especially when you drink it. Fructose was never meant to be drunk. Don't get drunk. No, never meant to drink it. It's the worst thing you can do. It puts that insulin on steroids. The response is crazy. And it makes a beeline. After it disrupts your microbiome, it makes a beeline off to the liver. Okay? So you guys know this, okay? So what I'm showing you this morning in this study, it's finally catching up to what you guys already know. And the world, just understand how they operate, okay? Like when I say the world, I mean out there, there's forces out there, and I try and bring you at least behind the scenes. Okay? Of how the world operates. And so you've got big food who don't care about you, by the way. They care that you buy their products. And I mean that. They just don't care. The tobacco industry went into the food industry and they want to hook you. And if they can't get you, they're going to get your kids or your grandchildren. They hook them. And they lie through their teeth. And you got, Fruit Loops and Cheerios on the top. But Dr. Martin, it's got fiber. Right? Cereal company can't have bacon and eggs. You're eating bacon and eggs in there, you're going to have a heart attack. You're going to have, your cholesterol is going to go so high. Yeah, true or false? And folks, it's the narrative. The food industry don't care. They have taken over the grocery stores. There's 33,000, I never counted, but people have. In the average grocery store, 33,000 products and labels. And, people just don't read labels. They don't know how to read a label. They're looking for calories. They're looking for how many fat grams are in there, right? Because they've been taught. The The boogeyman is cholesterol. And moderation, that's the food industry. They're a bunch of liars, pants on fires. And then you have the pharmaceutical industry. And God bless them. They bring out some good things, okay? But the pharmaceutical industry knows nothing about nutrition. They don't think it's important. They don't even look at it. They know nothing about food. The food industry don't care. They're heartless. Even though they put hearts on the box of cereal. When you see a heart on a box of cereal, if you eat it, you're going to have a heart attack. Is that what they mean by that? That's what they should, because that's the truth. You don't get heart disease from cholesterol. Okay. Now that was one study. Okay. We're not going to get to the question, but we will. We will. But let me bring you the other study. So Alzheimer's and gut health. Alzheimer's and blood sugar combined. Sugar disrupts the microbiome. And number two, it creates insulin resistance, and insulin can't do its job to get sugar out of the brain. Alzheimer's, the newest research on it. Now, I have a feeling this is going to be buried. Okay? Try and find type 3 diabetes. You'll find it if you Google it. But how come the world doesn't know about type 3 diabetes? You know what I've told you? The food industry and the pharmaceutical industry are in cahoots when it comes to naming things. So let me tell you, when I was a kid, what did they call diabetes? Sugar diabetes. That's what, you look at medical textbooks, it wasn't even just diabetes. It was sugar diabetes. Why? They got it right. It's caused by sugar and things that turn into sugar rapidly. Okay? And you have type 1, which is autoimmune. Now listen to this. Okay? Here's another study. Okay? High glucose, okay, here's the study, and autoimmunity. Sugar, okay, and autoimmunity. What's the connection? Okay? Now, we already looked at what it does to the microbiome. It disrupts it. It feeds the wrong army. You get the Trojan horse coming in. But listen to this. High glucose and autoimmunity. It increases, they said, here's what sugar does. It increases free radicals. You know what that is? It's oxidative damage. Okay? It's how you age. Okay? It's how we age. Cut an apple in half. Wait. You don't have to wait long. Just wait. Watch it. Soon as it's exposed to oxygen, it starts to free radicalize. It starts to age right before your eyeballs. True or false? Yeah. It's a wonderful illustration. Right? You pick up bananas at the grocery store, and in a day or two, they start turning, you get the brown spots and whatever. What is that? It's oxidation. It's how we aged. The same oxygen, okay, that you can't live without it, it's going to guarantee that you're going to age and then die. Guaranteed. Okay? It's the second law of thermodynamics. Just the way it is. Okay? I used to be young. Okay? Not so much anymore. Okay? And you can Botox yourself to death. And you can have the fattest lips in the universe. You can have your dermatologist on speed dial. But it may slow it down a little bit, but it's going to happen. So what are they saying? Okay, and I get distracted. What are they saying? Well, when you consume sugar, you start a process we already talked about in the gut, but there's another process that starts, and that is oxidation. And that one of the byproducts of oxidation, okay, is what they call a cytokine storm. That is, your immune system overreacts. And when your immune system, it starts an inflammatory response. It's a cytokine, what they call a cytokine storm. And it's very much connected, according to the study, this newest study, very much connected to autoimmune disorders. Guess what type 1 diabetes is? It's autoimmune. What is, let's go to the brain for a minute. What is MS? Autoimmune. What is Parkinson's? Autoimmune. Okay? What is psoriasis? Autoimmune. What is eczema? Autoimmune. What is rheumatoid arthritis when it attacks your joints? Autoimmune. And listen, I've been telling you this for years, but here's what the studies are showing. It disrupts the microbiome. We got that. And 2, it starts an inflammatory response. A cytokine storm inside the body. It overreacts for some people. They overreact. And again, I bring you to the reset. And I get pushback. I get it. Because if you listen to 99%, just about, of the gurus out there, if you have autoimmune, they're going to tell you, okay, they might tell you to get off the sugars, which is good. But they're going to tell you to get off meat and get off eggs and get off dairy. I don't tell you to do that. I don't tell you to do that because your friendly bacteria loves steak. Loves it. And guys, somebody said this to me the other day. When I say steak, I mean red meat, okay? I mean red meat. Steak being the best, okay? But like hamburger, full fat, if you can find it, roast beef, lamb, pork a little bit less, but still good. Okay, so just remember when I say that. I like steak because that I don't have to explain myself all the time. Red meat, steak, and meat, fish, salmon. Now you get white meat, you get red meat. Okay? high glucose and autoimmunity, Alzheimer's and gut health, where sugar disrupts the microbiome. 2 studies that I flagged over the weekend. 2 new studies flagged over the weekend. Absolutely incredible, guys. So where do you start? Start in the kitchen. Start in the kitchen. Start with food. Okay? You can't go wrong by starting with food. Okay? Don't live to eat, eat to live. I love eating, by the way. Okay? I do. Okay. I'm breathing. Okay, guys, we got a great week coming up. Okay, we really do. Going to be lots of fun. I promise I'm going to answer some of the questions that I didn't answer last week. Okay, promise. Okay, now, if you're not a member of the private Facebook group, you ought to be. Okay, 1. 2, are you getting our emails? Okay, make sure you sign up for that, because we give you a lot of information in our emails. Okay, martinclinic.com. Okay, guys, love you dearly. Talk to you soon.